what I've become interested in as I've aged is looking at the greatest performers, because I think that, there's no doubt that the best athletes have a remarkable natural talent that the rest of us don't have.
I've measured it without question.
Where I think people miss the talent, what they're missing is a big part of the talent is the natural stability. In other words, it's the force transmission without the energy leakage. And when I contrast really good athletes with myself, and I examine my athletic past, what is clear to me is that in everything I have ever done, despite all of my hard efforts, my lack of both natural ability and, at the time, coaching has meant that I have always suffered from an unbelievable amount of energy leakage. Whatever I have done, whether it's been, boxing, swimming, powerlifting, all of those things, again, there's such a chasm between me and the really good ones, and it's not due to hard work. I can promise you it is not due to effort. It is due to probably some combination of natural ability and coaching that has allowed the really good ones to do what you've demonstrated, right? Which is, a great punch begins in the back foot and it's transmitted through the hip and it goes into the opposite fist. I mean, that's just how, it's just hard for people to understand how that through line of force can't lose anything along the way. And again, you talk about running. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Peter, the stories I could tell you about the number of athletes being detuned by their trainers and coaches, violating this principle that you're describing. It's astounding to me. You mean, why are you getting them to do that? You just detuned their athleticism. But anyway, so I interrupted you, and
Well, I think where I want to go with this is, most people listening to this are not going to lament the fact that they didn't run as fast as they could have when they were younger, or that they didn't punch or swim with as much, prowess as they could have. Where I think we should all care about this is that it's not just that the energy leakage costs you performance. It clearly does. It's that it predisposes you to injury. And that's where I think we have to bring this back, right? Is when I exercise today, I don't care about the performance. I care about the preservation and longevity of my body for whatever number of years I have left. So this is really where I think stability matters. It's, what are the exercises I need to be doing? What are the exercises my patient need to be doing? So that as we age and we walk up the flight of stairs or carry something heavy, we don't hurt ourselves because we don't have that core stability that can resist the deformation that's going to allow energy to seep out of the system.
Well said. A story was coming to mind as you were saying that. I'll be giving a lecture or teaching a class, and I'll show some data from an elite athlete. And there will be therapists and clinicians in the room who say, we don't deal with elite athletes. We deal with the elderly, or we deal with sick people. And I think, what are you thinking? I'm showing you what the human body has the potential to do. And your arrogance won't allow you to learn what is possible. And I'm going to give you a very emotional, I hope I can get through this, a very emotional story to show the arrogance that exists among some of our colleagues. Occasionally, medical groups, a hospital or whatever, will ask, would you come out and assess 3 patients in our auditorium in front of all our medical staff? I was at this facility, it was in Europe, and they brought out the first person was a rugby player, fair enough, and I had 20 minutes and declared what I thought was going on. The next one was a woman in her early 70s, clearly distraught. You could look at her posture, her carriage. She was defeated by the world. And she came onto the stage, and I said, "Can you tell me your story?" And she said a little, few sentences, and then she said, "But the therapist says that I have to leave my home now. When I get off the toilet, I'm a bit unsteady, and she's afraid I'm going to fall on the floor. I can't get off the floor by myself, and I'm just going to lay there and no one will discover me. I have to leave my home." She started to cry at this point, Peter. She said, "What's going to happen to my cat?" and all this sort of stuff. And I said, "Really? Would someone please bring me out a stool? And this will be our simulated toilet." So an assistant brought in a stool onto the stage. I said, "Okay, pretend that's the toilet. Have a seat." She turned and had no idea how to move and just sort of plopped and collapsed on the toilet. And then I'm just going to turn this down because I want you to see my lower body kinematics as we're moving here. And then I said, "Would you get up off the chair?" And I can't remember whether she was wearing a skirt or pants. Pants, I think it was, but nonetheless, knees together. And she just sort of collapsed. And I had to help her. She was going to collapse onto the floor. And so I said, I want you to humor me now. You're my mirror. And when I coach, I try and use minimum words. I said, "Do this with your hands. Put your kneecap between your thumb and your hands as you slide your hands down. Good. Now, I want you to be a leaning tower. Leaning tower forward and backwards, and play with the curve of your back. Do you have any pain now?" She said, "No." And I said, "Watch my shoulders. You're shrugged. I want you to anti-shrug." She did that. Perfect. And now I said, "Pull your hands up your thighs by pulling your hips through. Don't lift with your back. Pull your hips through." She had it done in 3 repetitions. That was now her pattern. And I said, "Okay, think of what we've just done and sit on the toilet." And I said, "Whoops, spread your feet apart." And there she went, slid her hands down. And now I said, and then she put her knees together. And I said, "Now stand up." And she was going right back to the incompetent movement that caused her inability and disability before. I said, "Spread your knees apart and pull your heels underneath you. Sniff some air. Now lean forward and do what you now know how to do." And she did a perfect squat. Do it again. And then by the 3rd repetition, big smile came on her face. It was the emotional part. I said, "What's up with you?" She said, "I don't have to leave my home, do I?" I said, "No." Do you know, many of those hard-baked surgeons and clinicians started to cry as well. For the first time, they realized all I did was teach her weightlifting 101. And remember how this story started with the arrogance of some of our colleagues who say, "I don't want to hear stories about elite athletes. I deal with old people or sick people." And that's why they continue to not have the skill set to help their people. All I did was learn from the best weightlifters in the world, people who know how to move load, learn what the efficiency was and turn it into a hack to change a person's life. Anyway, that's a pretty emotional story, and I hope we do that quite often. But it's a matter of, I know you like cars. Why does Honda race F1 race cars? Well, they don't anymore, but when they did, and the reason was they learned about automotive technology, and the gear shift change in your Honda Civic came from the F1 racetrack. So that's why we work with elite athletes, so I can bring it down. I love working with them, of course, but this is they just give it away free to us, and yet some of our colleagues are just so closed off, they don't want to hear about elite performance.
Let's talk a little bit about, first of all, that's an absolutely beautiful story, Stuart, and thank you for sharing that. It's a sadly common story too, and to me, I think the saddest part of that story is how many of those patients don't get the chance to sit on a stage with you for 30 minutes and learn that movement. I don't, you've been around long enough that I'm sure you have a better sense of this, but I feel maybe optimistically that we are in a place now where people are starting to appreciate the importance of strength and stability, and that we're less afraid of this. There's more discussion of the importance of resistance training, and that it's not a young guy thing to do. It's an everybody thing to do. But given the arc of your career, am I being just sort of delusional, or do you really think that we're in a coming of age here?
The way you phrase questions are fabulous. What was going through my mind? Well, I mean, I try and answer every question. What's the evidence, and what's the application? So the evidence at the university, with all our first-year students, one of their first courses they took was on just basic fitness evaluation, range of motion, strength, hand grip, VO2 max, some of these markers. And they would measure each other, and we kept the scores year after year of the incoming class. The students got terribly soft, and I can prove it based on that data, and we would graph it. Now, whatever year was the year where the students had grown up with the personal computer, it was right at the very late 90s, I think. All of a sudden, we saw the incoming class fitness plummet. But then something happened. They were a soft bunch for about 5 years. And then slowly, to your point, they started to come back. And so I think your perception is right on. It did go to a terrible state, however many years ago that was, 15 or 20 years ago. But it is coming back now. And among our colleagues, but having said that, I think some of them are terribly misguided as well. They think, oh, you're not a real woman because I heard this on social media, until you can deadlift twice your body weight. Well, wait a second. If they could come here and see the number of people who've been caused by overzealous trainers and going bonkers on deadlift magnitude.